Ice Trae Young does it again. Grayson Allen steps into the shoes for Chris Middleton. And Chris Paul shows again why he's one of the greatest point guards of all time. So with that, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Rip Jersey Podcast. And let's talk about it. Devin Booker went down with a hamstring injury in Game 2. The Suns dropped that game, lose home court advantage, as the Pelicans take over and look like they're the surging team. But the Suns have been the best team in the NBA all season. And you can't get there by being just led by one star or two stars. You got to have a great team around you. And Chris Paul, the starting point guard for the Suns, he enhanced that. He showed you how good the Suns really are. And with his play, the Suns take down the Pelicans 114-111 to go up 2-1 in the series and beat the Pelicans at home. I mean, without Booker, Paul just fed his big men. He fed everybody, but he fed the big men the most. DeAndre Ayton and JaVale McGee outscored the Pelicans 64-40 in the paint. Ayton, who was a former number 1 overall pick, showed why he's a former number 1 overall pick. He finished with 28 points and 17 rebounds, the first Suns player to have a game like that since Amari Stoudemire back in 2007. But it's not like the Pelicans played bad. They played great, actually. Ingram had 34. McCollum had 30. Graham had 12. I mean, those are numbers that you expect from your two stars and the role players. Most of the time, you have those numbers, you win the game. But with Chris Paul, it just doesn't matter, especially if it's a close game in the fourth quarter, because that's where he'll burn you. And he did. Paul had 7 points in that first half as he was feeding everybody around him, feeding the big men. But he finished with 28 points and 14 assists. Because he can turn it on in the fourth quarter. Even at 38 years old, he still controls the game. We've seen him do this time and time again. And he even broke an NBA record in the process. Paul had 28 assists and 0 turnovers in the last 2 games of this series. That's the most in a 2-game span in NBA history. He's had 38 assists throughout the entire series with just 2 turnovers. I mean, that's just absurd. He's finding his guys. Bridges had 17. Crowder had 10. I mean, those guys can score, but Paul is finding them. He's facilitating. He's the big reason why. And if he continues to play like this, the Suns won't have any problem against the Pelicans, even without Devin Booker. Atlanta won 20 of its last 23 home games coming into Friday night. Now make it 21 because Trae Young just has ice in his veins. That's why they call him Ice Trae. Trae came down the floor in the final seconds of the game, made a move past PJ Tucker, drove through the lane, and shot a floater over Jimmy Butler. He said he had no doubts that it was going to go in. He had no doubt. It dropped through the cylinder with 4.4 seconds left in the game. And then DeAndre Hunter plays great defense on Jimmy Butler on the other end. And the Hawks secure another one. Now, what's the theme of the 2022 playoffs? Another large comeback. The Hawks come back from 16 down to win 111-110 to bring the series to 2-1. It's still in Miami's favor, but they avoided the 3-0 series deficit. I mean, the Trae Young floater is just the epitome of who the guy is. When his team needs him most, he's there. He delivers. This is the third time we've seen Trae Young bring the Hawks back from a large deficit in the playoffs. Last year they did it twice against Philly when they were down 26-18, and they made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals before Trae Young got hurt. And then tonight, he scores 10 of his 24 points in the final 3 minutes of the game, which was also 10 of the Hawks' last 13 points. And it's the Hawks' third largest comeback in the postseason in the last 25 years. Now, why did they have to come back from so much? Well, it's because Tyler Hero and PJ Tucker. The Miami Heat went on a 21-0 run in the third quarter. And it looked like it was going to be a 3-0 series lead for Miami. Hero had 24, Jimmy Butler had 20, and Max Strus stepped into the game and knocked down 5 3-pointers for 20 points of his own. But then Kyle Lowry got hurt. His shoe got stepped on, and they've ruled it a hamstring injury. They don't know the severity of it just yet. But when he went down, Trae Young saw his opportunity. And he brought the Hawks all the way back. And I want to give the Hawks bench their flowers too, as the 3 players coming off the bench combined for 40 points. Bogdanovich gave you 18, Wright gave you 13, and Okongwu gave you 9. And that's who played in the fourth quarter. It was those guys off the bench. I mean, Hunter had 17, Herter had 13, Gallinari had 11, but it was the guys on the bench that were in crunch time. That's who the Hawks were counting on. And because they were playing so well, it made it easier for Trae Young to operate. Throughout this series, he hasn't played up to his par. He scored not as many points as he should have. He's turned the ball over the most he's ever have in Game 2 with 10 turnovers. But because the Hawks were finding their rhythm, the Miami Heat could no longer just cue in on Trae Young. They had to spread out and play against everybody. And that made it easier for Trae to come through. And now Young is the only other player besides LeBron James to score multiple go-ahead field goals in the final 10 seconds of a playoff game in the last 5 seasons. It's just incredible. And now the Hawks have all the momentum going into Game 4. In the second game of the night, the Chicago Bulls hosted their first playoff game in 5 years. There was a lot of hoopla before the game, a lot of noise from the fans who finally get to see their team again in a meaningful playoff game. But the Milwaukee Bucks, they had other plans. The Bucks obliterated the Chicago Bulls 111-81 to give the Bulls their worst home playoff loss in franchise history. They beat them by 30 points to go ahead 2-1 in the series. This is without Chris Middleton, who sprained his left knee. He's going to be out for the rest of the series, at least. And so stepping into his shoes to fill the void is Grayson Allen. That's right, it's not Drew Holiday or Giannis. Grayson Allen led the way tonight. He knocked down 5 3-pointers for 22 points. I mean, Giannis gave you 18, 9 and 7. He did a lot of facilitating on Friday night. Bobby Portis, who had his eye cut in the last game, played this one with the goggles on and gave you 18 points and 16 rebounds. And Drew Holiday gave you 16 points, but he played great defense on the Bulls' leading player, DeMar DeRozan. DeRozan had 41 points in Game 2. But on Friday night, he was held to just 11 points on 4 of 9 shooting, as Vucevic with 19 and Naveen with 15 was the Bulls' leading scorers. But the Bucks showed why they were NBA champions last year. They have so much depth. I mean, they're without Chris Middleton now. They've been without George Hill. And still, they can perform like this without Giannis having the game of his life. They're probably the only team to have a big lead and not blow it throughout these playoffs. But to spoil the Bulls' home playoff game like that, it's just incredible. And the Bulls have no home playoff advantage against the Bucks. They have no home court advantage against the Bucks. This is the 18th time out of 20 tries that the Bucks have beat the Bulls at home, in their place, in United Way. The Bulls haven't won a home playoff game since 2015 against the Cleveland Cavaliers. They lost that series in 6, but they won a home playoff game. The fans got to see something. It's just amazing how good these Bucks are. It's just amazing. Thanks for watching this video. If you made it this far, like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, I have a podcast called Rip Jersey. Follow that, add it to your playlist. Listen to it wherever you can. Thanks for watching again.